the top news story right now is basically, oh my God, Iran turned off the cameras in its nuclear facilities. And they're making it out to be like, Iran is trying to hide something and they're going to turn off the cameras and build a nuclear weapon while nobody's looking. And, Iran is so dishonest. Why are they turning off the cameras? Iran won't cooperate with the international community. Okay. Let me explain this, right? Here's the headline. Iran removing 27 surveillance cameras at nuclear sites. So not all of them. 27. These cameras are not part of any agreement. Iran put them there. Iran itself volunteered to put these cameras up there so that people in Vienna at the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, which is under the UN, could see what's going on. Iran volunteered to do this. Okay, let's get this straight, first of all. Iran does not have to do this. I don't know any countries that would do such a thing. Does Israel have cameras at its nuclear facilities where it has nukes? It actually has nuclear weapons. The headlines, oh my goodness. I really, I really love it. They're saying Iran is going to sabotage the nuclear deal now, right? So here's the headline from Reuters. IAEA warns of fatal blow to nuclear deal as Iran removes cameras. So they're hyping it up, and that's a camera, one of the surveillance cameras. Here's the video of them actually turning off these surveillance cameras. This is the actual video from today. You only see them turning off 2, I think, but they're going to do the rest in the meantime. You see the lights, the indicator lights going off. So normal is the regular power and UPS is the backup. These are at a number of nuclear facilities in Iran. The most famous one is Natanz, which Israel has attacked several times. And like I said, they're voluntary, okay? At the same time, you have the nuclear talks. So I have a whole playlist on my channel where I covered the nuclear talks, still am, independently on the ground. So if you want to understand what is the Iran nuclear deal, what is the JCPOA, go watch it and you will come out more well-versed than some of these journalists writing this. So why did Iran turn off these cameras? Well, a few days ago, the IAEA, which is again the nuclear watchdog at the UN, they had a meeting called the Board of Governors. So this is something that they do regularly, not every week, but it is something they hold regularly. And what happened at this meeting 3 days ago is that there was a resolution adopted condemning Iran. And this was, of course, proposed by the UK, by the US. And you can actually see, here's the statement from the UK government. They're saying E3 and US welcome Board of Governors resolution. So the E3, that's the UK, France, and Germany, and the US. So these 4 countries. And they're, of course, happy about it. And they're saying that, they're happy condemning Iran's insufficient cooperation with the IAEA on serious and outstanding safeguards issues relating to Iran's obligations under its NPT required safeguards agreement. NPT is Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. So I find this hilarious that the United States is condemning Iran for not cooperating with the IAEA. That's really funny, honestly, after, quitting the nuclear deal. The head of the agency, the Director General, Rafael Grossi, he gave a press conference, and this is when he said the fatal blow, when he was asked, what does this mean for the nuclear deal? Because, for a year they've been having these negotiations. Is the United States going to get back in the nuclear deal, right? And in exchange, Iran rolls back some of its, some aspects of its nuclear program, and it gets sanctions relief. So let's take a look at what he said.
No, so the agency's services would not be available to the partner, to the parties of the JCPOA after 4 weeks.
We wouldn't be able to give them the accuracy that they require.
So the JCPOA is dead if it's not done within the next 4
I think
weeks.
this would be a fatal blow.
Okay.
So that's the quote that they've been sensationalizing. The JCPOA, when he says that, obviously it means the Iran nuclear deal. And the way that this has worked is that every time somebody attacks Iran, every time Israel assassinates an Iranian, just like a few weeks, Khodai, who was a colonel in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, he was gunned down in front of his home in Tehran, 5 bullets, shot dead in his car. Israel, the Mossad did that. Last year, well, in late 2020, we had Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. He was actually a nuclear scientist, gunned down, shot dead in his car outside Tehran. And of course, we have Israel blowing up several of the Iranian nuclear sites, including Natanz, right? They worked on a virus in 2010, 2012, around this period with the Americans to sabotage the centrifuges. These are the tubes that enrich uranium. And between 2010 and 2012, what did the Israelis do? They assassinated in Iran 4 nuclear scientists, right? Murdered. So right now, after the nuclear deal came into existence, was signed, we're in the era of the United States not cooperating. So Trump leaves in 2018. And what has Iran been doing? Tit for tat. This is the policy. So when Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was assassinated by the Israelis, Iran was like, okay, you know what? We're going to pass a law in the parliament, in the Mejlis, rolling back our cooperation. So allowing the IAEA to look at what's happening with these cameras inside the facilities, the additional protocol, Iran, nuclear scientists from the IAEA being able to just go into any nuclear facility they like, random checks. This is gone because you guys refuse to lift sanctions. You're letting the U.S. sanctions basically, ruin our banking sector, our oil sector. You're going along with that. You won't get the U.S. back in the nuclear deal. Okay, and on top of it, you're murdering Iranian scientists in Iran. We can also play this game. And so starting from February of 2021, every month, Rafael Grossi has had to fly to Tehran to make sure that Iran does not delete the footage of the nuclear facilities because they're not allowed to look at it, right? Iran told them, you know what, we're going to keep filming, but we're not giving you the footage of what's happening in the nuclear facilities until you get back in the nuclear deal, until this whole issue is resolved. And so every month he's had to fly to Tehran and ask them to please extend this by another month. And they've been keeping the footage in a black box. And the Iranians said, but at a certain point in time, if this issue is not resolved, we will delete the footage. You're not getting it ever. Now, this is the extra step. This is the next step. They condemned Iran. Now Iran's just removing the cameras. And again, they're voluntary, most of them. So the ones that Iran has to keep as an NPT signatory, all of the things that Iran is obliged to do, that it agreed to do, it's continuing to do them. And that's the amazing thing, because you look at the media, they make you think that Iran is like building a nuclear weapon in some like janitor closet inside the nuclear facility. They just have bombs lying around, ready to be assembled. It's so absurd, right? It's so crazy. And Iran actually kept cooperating with them all the way, even after Trump quit. And here you can see they removed 27 cameras, and there are around 40-something cameras still in Iran. That's what Grossi said. The ones that are removed, as I told you, they include Natanz, Isfahan, there's another facility there. And he said, we are in a very tense situation with the negotiations over the nuclear deal at a low ebb. Now we are adding this to the picture. As you can see, it's not a very nice one. So Iran said it shut off 2 devices the IAEA uses to monitor enrichment at Natanz. So in addition to the cameras, there's another system that you guys have to pay attention to. This is the online enrichment monitoring, OLEM it's called, OLEM. You can see here, this was posted in 2016 after the nuclear deal. These are the devices that they use to monitor the uranium enrichment. And Iran, this is also being turned off. You can see here, the online enrichment monitor. That same device I just showed you. That's also turned off. So there are several steps that are being taken. And every single thing Iran has done is always leverage. It's all about leverage. Iran does not do things, to antagonize. It's quite the opposite, actually. I can give you another example. What happened today? The Greeks, who stole 2 Iranian oil tankers, suddenly changed their minds. Why did they change their minds? Because when Greece seized 2 Iranian oil tankers, Iran said, you know what, we can also play this game. And Iran went and seized 2 Greek oil tankers, right? Remember where Iran is located? Iran is not only an oil-rich country, it's also located right next to the most strategic shipping lane on the planet, where all the oil tankers are going, right? In the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran's policy is tit for tat. You take our oil tanker, we will take your oil tanker. And what happened? Greece backed down. Same thing with the UK in 2019. So, all the time they say, oh, look, Iran is enriching uranium to 20%, to 60%. But they don't tell you why Iran is doing that. It's kind of like implied that Iran is just evil. Like, they just want to build a nuclear bomb. So, of course, they're enriching uranium to 60% or to 20%. They never tell you why. They don't tell you that Israel killed a nuclear scientist in Iran while he was outside Tehran. They don't tell you that the United States assassinated General Soleimani. All of these things, the sabotage at Karaj, the sabotage at Natanz. They were saying, for example, Iran is not allowing the nuclear inspectors to come to this facility at Karaj and install a camera. They don't tell you that the reason the camera is not working is because Israel blew it up. The camera was fine. They don't say anything about Israel blowing it up. And notice how they're so scared of, oh my God, the Russian forces at Chernobyl. Oh my God, the Russians at all these nuclear sites in Ukraine. They're crazy. They're shooting. They're firing. They're going to cause the second Chernobyl. But when it comes to Israel, literally blowing up, sabotaging multiple nuclear sites in Iran, they're fine with that. That's okay. No condemnation. That nuclear terrorism is okay because Israel is doing it, right? Can't criticize Israel. Oh no, the perfect Israelis. You can't say anything about them. Or, otherwise you're an anti-Semite. Yeah, okay. We know we're tired of this game, and the double standards are, it's overwhelming at this point. It's overwhelming. Right now, they have a couple of weeks to get things done. The clock is ticking, as Grossi said, right? And honestly, I think that trying to blame Iran for just self-defense, for doing tit for tat, this is not going to work, man, because right now they've tried to basically say that Iran is stalling the nuclear deal. And you know what they say? They say Iran is dragging its feet over the terrorism designation because the US designated the IRGC, which is part of Iran's armed forces, as a foreign terrorist organization, FTO. Those are sanctions, right? The Iranians don't care about this. Even if the FTO label was removed, the individuals in the guard are also sanctioned. So that doesn't make a difference. The real reason that the nuclear deal, that the United States has not come back in and things have been finalized, is because the United States refuses to give Iran assurances. That's the part they don't tell you, because it's embarrassing. Iran just wants proof that it can trust the United States not to do what Trump did, not to quit the deal randomly, right? And impose sanctions and do all sorts of aggressive things. The Iranians told them, you need to give us long-term guarantees, even after the Biden administration is gone, right? So that we know we can trust you and we can cooperate here. The Americans said no. Then Iran said, well, can this administration at least give us guarantees? I said no. Can you believe this? Literally the same people that are negotiating, right? The United States that is trying to resume the nuclear deal refuses to give guarantees that it won't quit the deal again. Wow. I honestly admire the Iranians' patience, because I would have nowhere near this amount of patience. Nowhere near. I really, they say the Iranians are patient because they invented chess and they think, multiple steps ahead. No doubt, but I don't have that. I don't know how they do it. I wouldn't have that much patience. Really, it's unbelievable. And here, let's look at the headlines, shall we? Let's look at a few headlines so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So, Iran pulls UN and nuke cameras in possible fatal blow to deal. These are about the amid tension. I love this one. This is so good, right? Amid tension. They just add like these random terms to say like, look, man, Iran is causing tension. Oh my God. You know that I like to talk about the language in journalism a lot, right? Because it really tells you, it gives you a great idea of what's happening. And here, after the IAEA censored Iran at the Board of Governors, the Israelis loved this. So the Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, welcomed the decision of the Board of Governors, calling it a significant decision that reveals the true face of Iran. You gotta love these guys. They're true comedians, aren't they? They're real jokers, huh? They're real jokers.
Trinity
Rafael Grossi, the Director General of the IAEA, was visiting occupied Palestine just a few days ago, right? Here he is chatting to Bennett, and look how he speaks to him. So again, that's the Israeli Prime Minister, and that's Grossi. So Bennett is telling Grossi that Israel reserves the right to act against Iran's nuclear program. Let me get this straight. Israel, which refuses to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, refuses to sign the ban on chemical weapons, has a nuclear arsenal that is undeclared, is saying that it wants to attack Iran for a nuclear program that does not exist. And who is Bennett telling this to? The fucking chief of the IAEA. I mean, you couldn't make this up, man. You couldn't make this up. Right to his face. Like, he doesn't even respect his intelligence. This guy who has nuclear warheads is talking about threats and this. Why does Israel reserve the right to act in self-defense and not Iran? Israel is the one with nukes. Israel is the one that is treating Palestinians like garbage. Israel is the one bombing Syria every week. Who's the threat here? Who killed Iranian scientists? Who murdered an IRGC guard in front of his house 2 weeks ago? Man, really, it's like an episode of The Twilight Zone. The media are so biased. And it's not even just biased. They're untruthful. They don't tell the truth. They don't even know how the nuclear deal works. All the things about Iran increasing the number of centrifuges, replacing I love this story. Israel blew up an Iranian nuclear site, damaging the site, obviously. And Iran replaced the damaged centrifuges with newer centrifuges, right? And then they're like, hey, you can't do that. You're not allowed to have those newer models, the more efficient ones in there. Man, I mean, the Iranians certainly used the opportunity to put in the newer ones. Why shouldn't they? Like, why is there more criticism about Iran responding to aggression than actual criticism of that aggression? This is what is insane, right? This is what is crazy. It's like how the Israelis, they oppress the Palestinians, and if they dare to do anything to defend themselves, they are the terrorists. The Palestinians are aggressive. Not, oh, why did this person do that? Why is Iran reacting in this way? What provoked Iran into doing that? What is the rationale here? No, this critical thinking is not allowed. You have to be quiet. Everything Israel says is right, or you're an anti-Semite. Everything the United States says is correct, or you are a Russian, Iranian, Chinese bot. Pick your insult. Here again, this is from France 24. They say Iran disconnects nuclear site cameras as IAEA raises concern over uranium traces. So that's what they said, right? They say there are unexplained traces of uranium. That's what this is about. Goodwill gesture ends, right? That's turning off the cameras. And Iran also saying, as of today, the relevant authorities have been instructed to cut off the OLEM, which we talked about, the online enrichment monitor, and the flow meter cameras of the agency. Okay? So don't confuse the AEIO with the IAEA. IAEA is the nuclear watchdog at the United Nations in Vienna, and this is the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran. So that's their body, right? And the Iranians said that the cameras were not appreciated by the UN agency. I agree with that. The statement did not specify how many cameras had been turned off, but said that more than 80% of the agency's existing cameras are operating according to the safeguard agreement and will continue to operate just as before. Other measures are being considered, and quote, we hope that they will come to their senses and respond to Iran's cooperation with cooperation. Now, the State Department said that Iran's move is extremely regrettable and counterproductive. I'm stunned by the lack of self-awareness and the hypocrisy. Who are you to talk, man? Come on. Who is the U.S. to make criticisms? You allow Israel to have an illegal, or shall we say undeclared at the very least, the whole occupation is illegal, nuclear arsenal. The United States quit the deal, and they have the nerve to talk about extremely regrettable and condemnation. Wow. They say Iran reached the deal limiting its nuclear program in return for sanctions relief, but the agreement has been on life support since Trump withdrew. When they say on life support, keep in mind one thing. When Trump left the deal in 2018, like they say, Iran did not change a single thing, nothing, for an entire year. Entire year, even though it could have. So for an entire year, the Iranians were giving the United States a window of opportunity to come back and, fix things peacefully, diplomatically. Please, how can you look at that and not see that this is a gesture of goodwill? Somebody rips up a contract with you, and you keep doing what you signed, what you agreed to in the contract, even though the person ripped it up for an entire year, giving them a chance to come back and to not escalate. That is the high road, right? That is the mature adult thing to do. Patience that I don't think I would have. And even afterwards, when Iran started enriching uranium past the limit in the deal, so from 3.67% to 20% to 60%, this was always in response to Israeli or American aggression, and always done for leverage. Iran does not care about making a bomb. If it wanted to make a bomb, first of all, the whole world would know. And I mean, come on, they literally have cameras. What? I don't understand. They have cameras, special seals, everything. The flow meter, OLEM. The world would know about this bomb, and also it's too difficult to hide. So Scott Ritter, the former UN weapons inspector, so he knows exactly what he's talking about, who was working on disarming Iraq's WMDs after the first Gulf War. I've done many videos with him, but go watch my video on this channel when we talked about the Iran nuclear deal. He explains how to build a nuclear bomb, or the stages of it, and how it's so unrealistic. It's just impossible that Iran is actually building one, because we would know. You can't hide these things. And my point is that even when Iran is enriching uranium to 60%, 20%, this is only leverage. There is no nuclear weapons program. So at the end of the day, Iran right now, right this second, man, is ready to sign an agreement with the Americans if they can provide assurances. It's that simple. Iran is not even complaining or saying anything about the nuclear program. Iran is simply asking the Americans, please stop sanctioning us, stop maintaining Trump sanctions that have nothing to do with the nuclear deal. Remember, the nuclear deal specifically says that the United States shall not do anything to hinder Iran's economic cooperation and activities, its trade with other countries. When you sanction Iran, whether it's for human rights abuses or nuclear program, makes no difference, because you're still hindering Iran. And as long as the US is doing that, it's breaking the deal. As long as the Americans don't give assurances, this situation is going to continue. The court is in Joe Biden's, the ball is in Joe Biden's court. They know exactly what's going on. They're not stupid. And they are stalling and dragging their feet. Okay? Everything could be solved right now in 1 minute if the Americans give assurances that they won't behave like Donald Trump and go back on their word a second time. And many people in Iran are fed up with this, man. Really fed up. And I don't blame them. I understand there are others who actually want the deal because they understand the economic benefits. It's so funny, you're saying economic benefits. It's literally just about leaving Iran alone. Like that's it. The United States is not giving Iran anything. They just want to be left alone with no sanctions. That's it. That's literally it. So honestly, I understand both sides. Really, I understand them completely. Let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Because up until now, like I told you, Iran's been very patient. Every month, they renewed this agreement, the black box agreement. We'll record with the cameras, but we don't give you the footage until there's sanctions relief. That hasn't led anywhere, unfortunately, it seems. Now the clock's ticking. It's much more serious. And those cameras, they've just been turned off, man. The ball is in America's court right now. Is in Joe Biden's court.